Over the years, people have used the Mount Rushmore analogy to talk about a top four in a topic, whether it's basketball, anime, rap, or whatever. The Mount Rushmore of blank is always used as a hot topic of discussion. But today we're going to be covering a scenario of what if YouTube said the San Bruno Mountain beside our headquarters is now going to become a mountain that enshrines the 4 biggest YouTubers ever? And I'm going to explain why Mr. Beast is not on that list. So first, I think it's important that we create a little bit of rules for this scenario of why I picked who I did, who's in contention for this, and what is the reason behind everybody here. Because I'll tell you right now, my picks are not just the top 4 YouTubers ever. That would be way too easy. And when you look at Mount Rushmore, that's not our 4 top presidents. I mean, some of them are top presidents, but that's definitely not the 4. Because the reality is, Mount Rushmore was never supposed to be just a top 4. If so, where's the FDRs? Where's the JFKs? All of those should be considered over Teddy Roosevelt. However, instead, each person selected for Mount Rushmore has their own very different reason for being there. So the first rule we're going to go with is Mount Rushmore has to have a specific timeline of people we can choose from, because a lot of presidents today were not presidents when Mount Rushmore existed. As a matter of fact, the only presidents that were able to be selected from Mount Rushmore spanned from 1776 to 1927. If you put that same ratio of time down from when YouTube was created to now, you're only looking at a timeline of 2005 to 2016. So people like Mr. Beast, Dream, and Ryan Trahan cannot even be considered from the start. Sure, at the time, some of these guys were on YouTube, but they weren't the big people that we know today that need to be selected for this. On top of this, we're going to be taking this scenario as if YouTube is the one selecting this list. You know, back when YouTube did YouTube Rewind a long time ago, there were certain creators that were never considered for YouTube Rewind for specific reasons, mostly to protect the brand. However, don't worry, this is the 2016 timeline, so PewDiePie's controversies have not happened yet.
What a Weasley little liar, dude.
But in that same vein, someone like Leafy is here, even though he was big at that time, would not be selected at all because he's not brand friendly to YouTube. So we've got a timeline and a context around how these are being selected. And then the final rule we're going to base it off of is how the creator of Mount Rushmore, Abrham, selected his presidents to begin with. And that was to commemorate the founding, the growth, the preservation, and the development of America. So we're going to be using those exact same things. So our first selection is none other than George Washington. George Washington is, of course, the founding president of America. So being the first president, he was the one that created all the rules and the precedents of being a president, as well as defining what a president looks like to the public eye. So a few criteria for this is this YouTuber needs to be extremely early on in the creation of YouTube, as well as being what a YouTuber would eventually become very early on. With that being said, here are the candidates. First, we have Smosh. The first video Smosh ever created came out before some people were even alive, back on November 15th of 2005, with a video titled Power Rangers theme. This means they were posting YouTube videos only 7 months after the first ever YouTube video was posted. This makes them years upon years ahead of most YouTubers ever creating their channel. Anthony and Ian started their channel far before you could make money or get famous with YouTube. They were doing it to share fun stuff with the world and really just entertain people.
Now, I hear that in order to give your beef a very distinct flavor and consistency, that you keep your cows on a strict diet. Is that right?
Yes, we feed them wheatgrass and wheatgrass only.
Not only that, but they were eventually able to turn the channel into what is modern YouTube. For example, they were some of the first people to create YouTube series like their Every Blank Ever series, or If Blank Were Real. And they were some of the first ever YouTubers to create some really clickbaity titles and thumbnails, which is a staple of YouTube now. And for the time, Smosh had really high production value. They had great editing and a lot of thoughtful sketch planning when creating their videos, something very unique just to them at the time. But with that being said, I feel like there is one other person that needs to be considered for this, and that is none other than Fred.
Hey, it's Fred! And it's really nice out, so I think I'm gonna go go swimming later.
Fred's first video wasn't too far behind Smosh, with Fred on Halloween premiering on June 11th, 2006. Fred, real name Lucas Cruikshank, was also the first YouTuber to create his own character. He used a voice changer and made it really high pitch, extremely hyper, and this super comedic character that most people now agree is extremely annoying, but for the time was very entertaining for early internet YouTube.
Oh my god, there's a shark!
However, Fred went in a much different direction than Smosh when he grew his channel. Instead of expanding the channel out as like a business or studio like Smosh did, he went to a more traditional media route, creating not just one, but 3 Fred movies. These movies were released with the help of Nickelodeon between 2010 and 2012, which means from that period, there was a Fred movie every single year for 3 years.
What are your talents, Fred?
I'm a good singer.
No!
Ow!
But Fred wasn't really long-lived, because only 2 years after that would be the last time Fred ever appeared on his own channel, before allowing a cast of kids to make different types of videos on the channel for a while, but even that eventually fizzled out. And since then, there's really been no videos on the Fred channel at all. However, I will point out that Lucas does have his own channel now, not connected to the Fred brand at all, more just personal for him, and it has more subscribers than the Fred channel ever had. But considering how Fred sort of rose very quickly and then fell very quickly and didn't really contribute anything long-term like Smosh did, it's easily got to go to Smosh for the pick of George Washington. Next up, we have Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson was the 3rd president and the true growth of America. He was one of the first presidents we really saw implement policies that was more pull back, less law, less federalism, and he is kind of the person that shaped our 2-party system we have today. So this selection should obviously be someone who shaped the growth of YouTube. And not only should this selection be very early on in YouTube, like how Jefferson was early on in the presidencies, but this selection should also have had massive growth very quickly for a specific reason. So the first person I considered was Ray William Johnson. Some of you today might know Ray William Johnson as the TikTok crime and drama guy. But back in 2009, he was hosting a show called the Equals 3 Show. Ray not only had a format that made his channel like a daily TV show, but he was showcasing viral clips every day to the masses, becoming a viral curator of sorts. Not only did his channel set up the groundwork for daily shows or news coverage channels, but he also laid the foundations for review channels and reaction videos. And in just 4 years, Ray hit 10 million subs, not only being one of the first to do it, but becoming the most subscribed channel in 2013. But also during this time, he started to face stiff competition from one of our next candidates on this list, PewDiePie. PewDiePie started his channel just a little after Ray in 2010. At the time, doing gaming Let's Plays, specifically the most popular ones was his horror playthroughs.
Nope. Okay. Don't worry. It's just a game. Games can't hurt us. Okay, we're dead!
PewDiePie created somewhat of a character to himself that had never been seen before on YouTube. Sure, we had characters on YouTube like Fred already mentioned before, but PewDiePie was bringing this character that was more so authentic while being comedic and quirky. And most interesting about PewDiePie was he wasn't really growing in America at first, but instead Europe. He was one of the first ever YouTubers to hit 50 million subscribers. And to this day, he still holds the record for the longest person to be #1 on YouTube, and inspired big people like Mr. Beast as well. So despite the controversies, you can't really have a Mount Rushmore without at least considering him. However, we do have one more person that might be better, and that's Jenna Marbles. Jenna was groundbreaking as the first major female creator on the platform, doing fun skits and vlogs on her channel that brought a massive girl-based audience. But the thing is, Jenna just didn't push gender boundaries in the YouTube space. She was early to establish what it meant to take on the role of YouTuber as a profession. Jenna was very transparent throughout her journey of how her rise to fame quickly became her full-time job, and she solidified herself to many girls that wanted to become YouTubers as a profession, which is why today so many top creators cite Jenna as being the inspiration for their channel.
Used to watch a lot was Jenna Marbles.
Jenna Marbles, look her up. Oh yeah, I remember her.
Jenna Marbles. She was so funny, and what I love about her, she was like a Harvard grad who like actually was a go-go dancer, but they had like a falling out, and she broke apart, and she became Jenna Marbles. So it was like a big old
wow,
like,
and she just took her career into her own hands.
Yeah.
Now, all these creators are so amazing in their own right, and they all rightfully deserve a spot in a Creator Hall of Fame at some point, but there's only one that can be picked for Jefferson. And I just don't think it's possible to have a Mount Rushmore without having one of the longest, most subscribed YouTube channels on that mountain. So for that reason, we have to go with PewDiePie. And then the next spot we have to select is Abraham Lincoln. So Lincoln was the Civil War president and was known as the one to preserve the nation and do a complete shift in its track into what is modern America now. So if we're picking a YouTuber that sort of fits this role, it's someone who's evolved their content over time and helped us begin to shift towards what is modern YouTube. So with that being said, here are the candidates I took a look at. The first being Philip DeFranco. Now, he launched his channel in 2006 and has been the #1 staple of news coverage with the Philip DeFranco Show.
Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it.
Now, get this. Just on his main channel alone, he has posted over 2,000 uploads of almost daily news coverage. And that is after mass deleting hundreds or thousands of episodes before the year 2017. So Phil is a perfect example of someone who has been extremely consistent and done really good at improving their videos over time, which has led to a lot of news channels that exist in a similar vein on YouTube. But continuing on with a theme of people who have shows on YouTube, we have Rhett and Link of Good Mythical Morning. Now, just like Phil, Rhett and Link started their channel in 2006, and in 2012, they created one of the most well-known shows, Good Mythical Morning. And it's honestly genuinely crazy how broad of a net GMM has cast, because every episode, almost anything possible could happen, yet it still feels like it's cohesive and has a normal, comfortable format to it. Not to mention, Rhett and Link have brought on some amazing, well-known guests over the years for the show. And really, Good Mythical Morning has a special place in a lot of people's hearts. And just like Philip DeFranco's show, they've been incredibly consistent and higher quality year after year. So for that reason, they deserve to be considered for this spot. But one last person for this is Marquez Brownlee.
Marquez Brownlee.
MKBHD is the tech reviewer on YouTube who currently has around 20 million subs, as well as videos that go back as early as 2008 on the platform. And he single-handedly has turned the tech niche into one of the biggest mainstream forms of content on YouTube. Year after year, Marquez has been upping the quality of his content with enhanced editing, better filmography, and special series like YouTube's original Retro Tech and the annual Smartphone Awards show. Also, Marquez has won Creator of the Decade, and he's done all this while being a professional Frisbee player. And for all those reasons I listed, I just fully believe Marquez deserves the spot as our definitive Abraham Lincoln of our Mount Rushmore. And then finally, there's Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy is obviously the worst president on this list and the least popular, but he came at a time when Mount Rushmore was actually being built and was popular enough to land a spot on it at the time, even though after his presidency, he did experience a huge fall off in terms of longevity and legacy in American history. So with that being said, given our rules, this spot for our Mount Rushmore needs to be someone who was big in 2016 specifically and focused around modern YouTube at the time, and then slowly kind of just fell off after that specific moment in time. So the first person I considered for that is Lily Singh. Now, Lily first started YouTube in 2010, and it didn't really take her long to gain popularity in 2012 by doing funny skits, with a lot of them centered around her being in the South Asian community and growing up as an Indian Punjabi girl. Lily also at this time was going as Superwoman on YouTube, and everybody knew that name. She was really peaking in her content from 2014 to 2016, and even a lot of celebrities started appearing in her skits. Now, Lily broke boundaries on YouTube that really no one like her ever had us before, and for a few years, she was the face of women of color on YouTube, and everyone loved her. But unfortunately, Lily's popularity didn't last forever. She started moving more towards being a mainstream celebrity, focusing on being an actress and appearing in a ton of TV shows and movies, and in 2019 got her own late night show. You heard me right, her own late night show.
Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the first episode of A Little Late with Lily Singh.
Now, this show did many negative things for Lily's overall brand, and it got so many negative reviews and was eventually canceled after just its second season. But the biggest thing it did was solidify her as no longer being extremely loved by everybody on YouTube. And then on top of that, just kind of caused her channel to fizzle out. If you look at her channel today, there's just not the style of content that used to be on there. Really, it kind of just fizzled out during the COVID period while she was doing this show. So the next person we're going to consider for that final spot will be Casey Neistat. Now, it is not possible to talk about vlogging without his name coming up. Casey perfected the daily vlog at the time. Of course, he had been making amateur videos before YouTube was ever even a thing, but Casey came around and was one of the first people to not just hop on the trend of vlogging, but did daily vlogging. And his decades of video experience really show in how every day he could put out an extremely high quality cinematic video of his life in New York. And Casey vlogged for 534 days straight. There are hundreds of hours of content of his life between 2015 and 2016, and at this time he gained millions of subscribers for how consistent he was. But at the end of 2016, Casey announced he was ending the vlog and going on a break. Now, I don't want to say this is the end of Casey's reign on YouTube because he did eventually come back. This was a semi-retirement for what was his professional life for a short period of 2 years. On top of this, Casey eventually left New York and moved to LA for a bit and still posted from time to time. But, you know, after the years, the number of videos just continued to drop and shrink down to just being posted a few times a year. And when he did post, it was either really out of touch or received a lot of criticism. And it's really gotten to the point a lot of the fans from the Casey 2016 era don't feel like he's the same guy anymore. However, at the end of the day, Casey did just pioneer a genre of daily vlogging, and he has hundreds, if not thousands of massive creators that exist because of him. I mean, hell, even half a decade ago, I did a daily vlog channel while in college, and 100% all of that was definitely inspired by Casey. But nowadays, Casey just is not as near relevant as he used to be all those years ago, where you could just sit down every single night and watch the newest episode of Casey Neistat's life. But that's why we have one more person to consider, and that is Liza Koshy. Now, Liza didn't get her start on YouTube first. It was actually on Vine.
Wait, what's that? Is that a butterfly? It's me.
And she was by far one of the funniest people on the internet. If you were online in 2016, you saw a Liza Koshy video. But eventually, Liza did also make the transition to YouTube as well, and she became a massive face for the platform, to the point where just before the 2016 election, she interviewed Barack Obama.
Great, you are.
I heard you're doing pretty well yourself.
I'm doing okay. Congratulations on all the wonderful work you're doing on YouTube.
And eventually, she became the fastest person ever to hit 10 million subscribers on YouTube. But on top of all that, Liza did have one of the biggest relationships and biggest breakups ever on the internet with none other than Vine star and YouTube creator David Dobrik. Now, their relationship was very public and extremely viral. And quickly after all this, Liza eventually just took a break from YouTube shortly after, and just like Lily, she focused full-time on acting, and she'd eventually go on to have her own show as well, which was Liza on Demand. And she actually got 3 seasons on this, one more than A Little Late with Lily. But overall, it seems like Liza's days of being a YouTuber, just like the other 2 people on this list, are just over for the most part. Now, this was definitely the hardest of the 4 spots to pick, but I took a look at the, overall long-term impact of what it was like after their peaks in 2016 on YouTube. And just to be fully honest, Casey just simply had the biggest impact. There are so many more creators that exist on this platform today that wouldn't without Casey. And despite the decline of his channel, the spirit and the style of his content are still living on to this very day on YouTube. And there you have it, the unofficial, most researched, most specific YouTube Mount Rushmore out there. And there were so many creators I had to pass on when, looking into this and trying to decide the exact spots and who should go into it. So here is a big list of people that should have an honorable mention as someone who deserves to can be considered for this spot. Now, this video took way longer than expected. I've been writing the script for this since September, before I even announced the revival of this channel. And since then, I've been doing some live streams and everything on the channel, but this is the first real video since I decided to announce a revival and a comeback on here. But yeah, I do want to cover all the creators mentioned in this video a little bit more in depth in the future and create more videos about them. So if this type of content interests you, then be sure to subscribe. And if you made it all the way through this video and enjoy this style of content, be sure to leave a like and consider checking out some more videos as I put more out on this return to YouTube. I plan to have a lot more videos out there soon, as well as doing a lot more live streams of the creator news. So be sure to stick around. And yeah, America.